Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Doctor Who. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. The Weeping Angels. Love it, love it, love it. If you've never heard me talk about it in the past, I talk about it all the time. The Weeping Angels are some of my favorite creatures in the Doctor Who universe, just because I love how they operate. Like, it's supposed to be like a merciful kill, because they basically time travel you to a different time, and the time that you would have lived, they feast on that. Well, the temporal energy, I guess, is kind of like how they describe it. But nevertheless, we have a rogue Weeping Angel basically taking control of the TARDIS, and the Doctor's like, right, everybody keep your eyes on it, and it's just like, don't blink, I'm about to do something that will eject this thing. It's like, well, time and space is kind of broken right now, so will this actually work? It's like, well, there's a good chance, there's a big risk that it won't, but luckily it did work out. But granted, they don't know where they ended up, why the Angel took the TARDIS, so a lot of questions. But they find themselves in 1967, exactly where Claire is, because she's getting examined by a Professor Jericho, because he's asking her all these questions, and it's like, oh, what year is it? And she's like, 1967. And it's like, oh, the polygraph is kind of acting up, because like he's thinking it's acting up, because like, no, it's clearly 1967. So she's like, yeah, and he's like, oh, what year were you born? She was like, 1985. He was like, what? She was like, I said 1935. And he's like, oh yeah, don't ever get old, Miss Brown. And it's like, yeah. But, like, that's the thing of, like, we know that she already met the Doctor to some extent. She's like, right, we just haven't met yet. And you're like, but how would that be? Because how would you present day, because it didn't make sense until now. Because, it didn't, I just took it as fact, but it's like, no, it wouldn't make sense. Because it's like, right, you met, because it's like, you're meeting the Doctor present day in, like, 2021. But you got jacked by a, Weeping Angel and sent to 1967, so how can you present day have known the Doctor without you being older? You would have been like I'm an older lady. I know you, Doctor, because of the adventures we ended up going on. Like, that would make sense, but for her to still potentially be the same age, that didn't make sense. I just didn't think about it at the time, but that should have brought up a whole bunch of questions, so. But, you do have, like, Miss Hayward, like, there, being like, yeah, telling that priest, like, trying to get everyone to leave the village now, but he's not listening to her. He's not superstitious. So I'm like, I think that's kind of, wouldn't you at least be, if you're a priest or something, wouldn't you be somewhat, I feel like out of anyone, a priest would be more open to the superstitious. But maybe like there's a justification of like, superstition, there's no room for that in religion. I don't know. I think you just be more tuned to like, at least more open to just like how weird the world is. But maybe that's a whole point too. But it's like, she's like, yeah, count the gravestones. And he counted them. And it's supposed to be 92, but it ended up being 93. And the Weeping Angel got him. And she saw that the Weeping Angel got her. And I thought that was interesting. Like, if you notice throughout the episode, she doesn't get popped by the Weeping Angel. Even though, it's there. It could get her. But I think it did that on purpose, which we'll get to in a second. Well, we'll get to later. But obviously, there's a little girl, Peggy, that's gone missing, like her. He was like, yeah, she's my great niece or something like that. Like, they're the only family she has. And Yaz is like, oh, let's ask stuff about her. Like, if we know stuff about her, then we can at least, like, calm her down in case, like, we run into her. And he's like, she's a 10-year-old. What is there else to know? It's like, you're kind of being very rude about it. Like, they're trying to help you. Because, like, Yaz is saying, like, do you have any favorite spot? But it's like, right, why he was being a dick is because he didn't know much about her at all. So, at the end of it all, it's like, that's why he was, like, having that response. Because, like, oh, that child isn't worth knowing or something like that. And even his wife got pissed at him for, like, yeah, maybe you stop treating her like crap and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, what gives you the right to talk to me like that? She's, like, 46 or 47 years of pain being associated with being stuck and married to him. I was like, yeah, things probably would have been better off if you weren't such a dick. At the same time, Yaz and Dan, they're going off on their own to help look for her. But they get snatched up by an angel. They end up in, because it turns out this is what was it? Who gave that? I believe it was Claire that gave the note to the Doctor, because it's like, right, this place is known as the Cursed Village. It's a situation where, like, in 1967, like, tonight, like, it's like November something, tonight, that everyone disappears Did she say the 21st? Did they plan that? I think, didn't she say the 21st, November 21st? I'm like, holy crap, did you plan that out that far? I mean, I guess it's not that hard if you schedule things out correctly, but I'm like, did they really? I think they said November 21st. November 21st. That's interesting. But it's like, yeah, this village disappears tonight, but it's not the first time it happened. Like, it happened in 1901 as well. I'm like, that's not good. Like, why does this village keep happening? And it's like, right, there's a very particular point, because like they're taking the village from these very specific times. We'll get that in a second, but because you're like, what are the Weeping Angels up to? Why are there so many of these bastards around? Like, and they're just like snatching up everybody. Because sadly, when we look in 1901, because that's where Yaz and Dan ended up, and Peggy's there as well, but none of the other villagers are there. Like, the entire village is empty. So they're not sending everyone to 1901. They're only sending a select few. They sent Dan, Yaz, and Peggy there, but it's like, why no one else? I guess everyone else just got sent to some other random time to live out their life and die. I've never asked the question. I guess every Weeping Angel has a very specific time that they send you to. The reason why I bring that up is because, like, well, you look at something like Rory and Amy. It's like, they ended up in the same time period, even though they were grabbed at different points in time. Like, in the sense of, like, I guess, like, either they can set themselves to a very specific time period, or they're all set to, like, different, like, oh, this one's set to 1845, and this one's set to 1927. Like, I don't know if they've ever gone into the minutia of exactly how that works. Because, like, once again, Amy and Rory are able to live out their lives together because they got sent to the same place. But once again, they were grabbed at different points. So I guess every angel will send you to a different... It's set up to, like, so why would an angel do that? Like, send Amy to the exact same spot. But maybe the point is, like, they can change times. It's just you want to get grabbed. Like, if you get separated like Amy and Rory did, it's like you want to get grabbed before it changes the timing. I guess maybe it's the justification. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about it. I'd never really thought about that before, when it's just like, oh, like Yaz and Dan potentially got grabbed at the same time, so it makes sense for them to end up in 901 together. But I'm like... I said 1901 together, but I'm like, I never really thought about that before. I mean, Peggy even got sent to 1901, but to be fair, this is them specifically sending them to 1901, so it's like, it can't be the same angel got them. It's like they had to have collectively been like, yo, we're going to aim for the same spot. So that's why I'm like, I never really thought about that before, and I'm thinking too much about it. And there might be answers out there in the canon to be like, oh no, they answered that a long time ago. I just don't remember. Tangents and all that aside. Then we had that whole weird thing about Claire becoming a Weeping Angel. I'm like, wait, how does that work? What's going on that she's becoming one? I was like, that's weird. Like, what's going on? And then also, and I love the theming of the episode of like, a Weeping Angel can be born from the image of a Weeping Angel. So it's like, as long as there's some image, it can come to life. I mean, it makes sense. It was on Yaz's TV and it was coming towards her. It was on her phone and it managed to pop up into the I don't know if we've ever seen them operate in that fashion before. Once again, I could be wrong, but I don't remember that coming up. I'm like, is this you expanding the Weeping Angel lore of like... Because I don't know if that's still continuous. Because remember there was that whole thing on Gallifrey where you had people like that. Like, they weren't statues, but they were people who covered their face like the Weeping Angels do. And I was like, wasn't that like... There was some correlation there, and I just don't remember what it was. It's a very specific scene from like something... It was something Gallifrey related, because it was like a whole bunch of Time Lord stuff. It was like the head honchos of like... in Gallifrey, the leaders and like the Time Lords. I don't remember. It's been so long. I don't know if that was necessarily like the birth of like the Weeping Angels. I don't remember if that was what that was. I remember it just... If I remember correctly, wasn't it Timothy Dalton? And then like there's, like I said, it's a scene with Timothy Dalton, and then like I think there's these ladies behind him with like their faces covered like Weeping Angels. Maybe it was one or two. I feel like I can remember the image, but I just can't. And was it even Timothy Dalton I'm thinking of? I think it was. My memory's so shit. Like I said, I don't think this whole them being able to come from an image thing came up before. I feel like this is the first time. Maybe it has come up before. I don't know. But I like our Professor Jericho, how he's like, quickly adjust to the situation, because it's like, holy crap, these things are moving. They're making sure him and the doctor are locking on the doors, and they like fortified themselves in the basement, and they put the doctor made like a makeshift like camera basically, like, and connected it to like the TV so they can keep an eye on the and I love it that we find out what Claire's situation is. She's becoming a weeping angel because a weeping angel has implanted itself in her mind, and now she's a seer. And it's like, now because of that, like, she's like, that's why she's like, it keeps coming and going. Like, I saw myself in visions of wings, and then like dust came out of my eyes, and now it's like her arms are starting to turn into weeping angels. And it's like, because she had a vision of the TARDIS, a weeping angel, and the doctor, that's actually how she knows the doctor. That's how she was like, oh, like, we haven't met yet. And that's what she was kind of referencing. So that's why she was able to kind of meet the doctor like out of sequence. The way she was talking about, like, oh, like, we met before, we just haven't met yet, we'll meet in the past. Like, that's what she was referencing. But and I even love Jericho being like, wait, so basically you're talking about like a psychic manifestation. And she's like, wow, you are such a scientist right now that you are so busy, trying to understand the something that you can't even possibly understand. And you're too busy to even be scared right now. And I love that. And he was like, oh, like, I've seen the unmanageable before, because he's been on the battlefield. He's like, and he stands up straight. He's like, what do you need me to do, ma'am? And it's just like, right, I need you to keep looking at that TV as she's going to like psychically dive into Claire's mind to talk to the angel. And so all while that's happening, like, he puts those devices on them so that he could get readings of all of this, because he wants to be able to understand exactly what's going on. And it's like, right, this is like a once-in-a-life opportunity to get to experience something that you normally wouldn't be able to. So he's keeping his eye on the TV. And even the angel starts messing with him. It's like, right, you examine other people so you don't have to examine yourself. You're alone, no love, no wife. It's just all you have is your work. And just kind of like, oh, give in to the angels. Like, just surrender yourself. You know you want to. And he's like, no, like, I never surrender. I'm like, good on you, Jericho. And while inside of Claire's mind, the doctor talks to the weeping angel that's inside, but it's like, wait, you're the same one, because it has a very distinct scar across his face. You're the same one that's here. It's like, wait, so how are you in Claire's mind, and then you came to like take my TARDIS? It's like, no, that wasn't me. The fact of the matter is, I need your help because I'm being hunted. It's like, wait, they're not here to help you. They're here to capture you. And it's like, why is that? Because I was with the division, and so are they. It's like, wait, what? I was like, dude, it makes so much sense why the Weeping Angels would be a powerful arsenal to have in your hands, like when it comes to extracting people. So it's like, of course, wow, the division has long and powerful reach. To be fair, this Weeping Angel is like, no, like, this thing takes advantage of every creature. I mean, it makes sense considering, like, Cara Vista is one, obviously, the Doctor being the timeless child. It makes sense that you were one. Like, they get every species on every planet. They have eyes everywhere. They're everywhere at every point in time. Like, this unknowing, you can't see this invisible intergalactic space and time organization just doing what they're doing, and they want this Weeping Angel because it has information about the entirety of its organization. Even the Doctor's past, like, oh, you want answers? You want about those memories? I remember and know everything. I can fill you in on your past and everything. So the Doctor has an opportunity for answers. It's like, right, let Claire go and I'll help you. It's like, no, you help me first and then I'll let Claire go. So, but sadly, on the outside, the Weeping Angels bust in, and your boy Jericho refuses to back down. He's like, I will not blink. I'm like, good on you, Jericho. I love that he, without taking his eyes off him, he threw a cup at the Doctor. He's like, I had to throw a cup to kind of snap you out of it because we're in a pretty dire situation. At the same time, Peggy and Dan and Yaz meet up with Peggy, and she's the only one in the village. That's why I'm thinking that's why I'm wondering, had everyone in 1967 gotten taken yet, or are they still out and about looking for Peggy? The Weeping Angels have only been picking them off one at a time, because like I said, none of them are in 1901, so either they hadn't gotten picked off yet, or they haven't, they've just been in other times, because Peggy ends up showing them that you have to stay in a village, that the Weeping Angels kind of put some stuff in their mind. What was it, like quantic extraction? You're like, what's that about? And then they go to the edge of town, and it's like, and the border gets shorter and shorter because they're in space and time, and the land is starting to crumble. And then we end up finding out they've done it, and that's why people disappeared in 1901 and 1967, because the same village in different decades has been taken and basically extracted out of space and time. And so, and they're like, I wonder, is it because it's a bit of a paradox situation? Because like the moment Dan like throws, because there's that middle ground where both time periods meet in this, well, it's weird to say time period considering like they're out of space and time right now. But the moment these two same places, just at different points in time, I guess it kind of created a paradox of some sort. Because like if anything that crosses that line immediately, I guess, gets erased from history. Just like her family did. And she was more so like, oh, like that guy didn't listen. It's like, hey mate, they were like, stay over there, don't get in front, because like Peggy's like, you don't survive a second encounter with a Weeping Angel. They usually don't come after you for a second time. Once they've sent you someone, they leave you alone, because it's like, right, I got what I need from you. But it's like, no. And he wouldn't listen, and they got in front of the Weeping Angel, because she was asking a question like, oh, how's that thing, how did it move? And it's like, he's just treating it as a prank, and they get reduced to dust, and they're dead. And she's not too brokenhearted about it. It's like, oh, he was never nice to me. It's like, oh, what about your aunt? Like, your great aunt or whatever. Like, wasn't she nice to you? Because she seemed more pissed about about him rather than her about the uncle and rather than the aunt, So, but it's kind of sad that both had to suffer because of his pigheadedness. But I guess it's like, right, you didn't do too much to stop his pigheadedness, so you're just as at fault. Maybe that's the justification, so... But it turns out Miss Hayward, the older lady that we've been seeing in 1967, that's Peggy. She's like, right, you never get to go back to 1967. It takes you like 66 years to get back here. And it's like, yeah, because that's her. She's being the teacher and everything. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. Like, had they never touched before then or something like that? Cause wouldn't that have created a paradox if they'd ever touched before now? Because you're like touching yourself, but from a different point in time. I guess it's like, I would think that would create a paradox, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be an issue? Like maybe they never touched, or maybe like Miss Hayward was very knew not to touch her younger self, just because it's like, right, that'd be very, very bad if that happened. So. Because the doctor found a secret passageway out, luckily her, Jericho, as well as Claire found a way out. But the tunnel system is just crawling with Weeping Angels as their hands are reaching out to you. So it's like, cool, Weeping Angels in the back, there's a Weeping Angel in the front, there's Weeping Angels on the walls. It's like, where do you go? And Jericho's like, I will not blink, and he stares down the Weeping Angel so that Claire could get by. And and the doctor's like, right, we'll both go to the left and right, and that way these Weeping Angels are looking at you, and they go. But sadly, dust fell into Jericho's eye, and he blinked. He got sent to 1901, so it's like, oh, cool. But I'm glad, like, hey, Jericho's still alive, and he's a part of this. So that's good. That's awesome. But then, like, the doctor's like, all right, I'm fast. Let's see if you can actually get me. And she tries to run, but they don't come after her, and I'm like, even she's like, I'm not observing you yet, and my back is turned to you, yet you don't do anything to me. Why is that? And in that moment, the doctor just keeps going, and she's reunited with everyone, but then realizing, like, what they're doing, it's like, right, you're here, okay, I'll let you get your Weeping Angel, just, leave Claire, and I'll negotiate something between you and the Weeping Angels at Acme. It's like, no. I, doctor, made an even better deal. And it's like, right, what do the division want more than this Weeping Angel that knows everything? The doctor. She's way more valuable, because I guess, like, she's at the point now she knows more about her past, and she's asking too many questions, so they need to remove her from the equation now. Or it's in reference to just, like, in general, we want you back because they want to try and make her a division agent again. I'm curious to find out what their plan is for the doctor. I mean, she's just a valuable resource in general because being a Time Lord and everything, I think that plus being the timeless child, like all of that contributes to like probably like why you're valuable. It's like, but why not at any other point? And maybe because the doctor's always moving and it's always harder to pinpoint her. Granted, weeping angels make that a lot easier. I mean, granted, they were after one target, but that's what this was all about. Why you implanted yourself in a human, because you knew I'd want to protect a human. This whole thing, everything you did was orchestrated for the purposes of drawing me out to be the perfect exchange. That way you could get away and they'd want me a lot more than they want you. And so the doctor gets turned into a weeping angel, I guess just for the purposes of encasing and trapping her. So that's interesting. It's like, what happens in 1901 and 1967 at this point in time? Like, do they get returned after the doctor's grabbed up or what? Because the point was, like Peggy was saying, like, they're doing this because they wanted witnesses to bear, I guess, to see like this great accomplishment of capturing the doctor, or I guess that was kind of like the main thing, I guess. I don't know. Either way, that sucks. How things will work out for Claire, we'll have to wait and see. I skipped over it too, but was that pretty badass moment of like it repaired the picture that it was in and then resurfaced, but then like the doctor crumbled it up, but its image was kind of like a little staticky, but then she set it on fire, and then the weeping angel itself was on fire, and it's like, right, kind of made matters worse in that moment, so I had to douse the fire, and it's like, okay, good. So just once again, just how that works is just so fascinating to me. Other than that, we do pick up with Belle as she's still looking for Vinder, and she lands on a planet and thinks like, oh, they got the guy there, what was the name, like Namiko? Like, was like, oh, like I can take you somewhere. Because at first he was kind of disappointed when he found out, like, oh, you have a life partner. Okay, cool. But yeah, like there's people, someone shows up here that kind of take us away. You just have to like, we have to stand a certain distance apart and everything. But then it's Azure that shows up and you're like, that's not good. I was like, you think people are being saved? Aren't they actually getting murdered? But it's like, no, she's putting them in passengers. And I'm assuming that's for the purpose of, ooh, we're playing this game again like we did in the past, and we're having a whole bunch of hostages. But the thing is, Belle, she's a soldier. Like, that's actually like the thing her and Vinder were like stationed at different, well, I don't know, I can't remember if she was saying like they were stationed together or separate places before. But she's been on the battlefield, and so she grabs home dude and gets him out of there because she's like, this isn't what you think it is. And as Azure's like, right, maybe you'll be on the next one. Make sure you tell everyone about this, because everyone's thinking they're being saved. These are the literal arcs to get them to a safe galaxy out of this galaxy is what they're thinking. But she tried to warn him, being like, no, passengers they're not safe passages. They're prisons. And he was like, no, I don't believe you, because she was like, this place it's a hunting ground. And he was just like, stay away from me. It's like, yeah, she tried to do the right thing, tried to save you. And because understandable. He's like, there's nothing and no one left in the galaxy. And my potential only way out of it's like, you ruined it for me, because now I potentially have to wait even longer. Like, I guess it's like, because I guess the reality of it is like, even if it was a prison, it's better than being in this emptiness that it, because even Belle was saying, it's like, yeah, well, space has always been empty. It's just, there's even less than what was before, so I think that's a whole point as well. But I just think he's just probably like, it's better than being here, so whatever, place I have to end up, it's better than being here. And it's like, you destroyed, like, at least this gave me some hope, and you took that away from me. Even though you saved me, you kind of robbed me of, like, some semblance of hope and peace to some extent. I think he'll come to thank her later on. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. We know Vinder's out there looking for her, so hopefully they'll find each other. It probably won't be till the end of the Flux arc that they'll potentially find each other again. But we'll have to wait and see how it all ends up playing out. But I'm very excited to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.